Right now, on one of your job sites, someone knows about a problem that is going to cost you like $20,000.
Oh, easily.
Yeah, and they've probably known about it for 2 full weeks. I mean, the drywall might be going up over a plumbing conflict or maybe a crucial material delivery is delayed, and the framing sequence is secretly being altered, just to accommodate it.
Right. They know the train wreck is coming.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But they just haven't told you.
And the initial reaction most leaders have to that is just pure frustration. I mean, you assume the crew is actively trying to hide the mistake or cover their tracks.
Sure, yeah. That's the reflex.
Right. But when you actually study job site dynamics, you realize it's rarely malicious. The silence exists because nobody asked them about the friction in a way that, actually made it safe to answer.
Which brings us to today. Welcome to this custom-tailored deep dive. If you are a construction business owner or a project leader, we built this specifically for you.
We really did.
Today, we're unpacking a framework drawn straight from the Scaling Legends material. And our mission here is twofold. First, we are arming you with 5 precise questions engineered to expose exactly what goes entirely unsaid on the job site.
Yeah, the hidden stuff.
Right. And second, we're exploring the actual mechanics of the AI tools you're going to need to manage the massive influx of operational insights you're about to uncover.
Because you will uncover a lot. We are basically functioning as your guides through this field-tested leadership framework today. The goal is to take these psychological concepts and, translate them into practical daily operations for your projects.
So let's start with the root of the silence problem. It always feels like bad news travels through molasses on a job site, right?
Mm-hmm.
But good news, like hitting a milestone early, that gets a megaphone.
Oh, 100%.
Management often operates under this assumption that if there is a glaring issue, the crew will just intuitively wave a flag and, alert the trailer.
Yeah, and that assumption just fundamentally misunderstands the power dynamics of a construction site. I mean, the barrier keeping that information from you isn't a lack of awareness.
No, not at all.
Your crew sees every single problem. They see every shortcut taken by a sub, every bubbling morale issue. The real barrier is a deeply ingrained lack of trust.
Because they've been burned before.
Exactly. Look at the historical precedent from their perspective. Often when a worker brings a really complex problem to management, they inadvertently become the target of the frustration.
Yeah, they get branded as a complainer. Or worse, the messenger literally gets shot.
Right. Or they face the trap of learned apathy.
It's a big one.
It is. They might have spoken up about a safety hazard or like a broken process 3 jobs ago and absolutely nothing changed.
So the prevailing thought just becomes, I'm paid to swing a hammer, not to fix the company's supply chain. Why stick my neck out?
Yep. And so the problem just sits there, compounding. And the financial impact of that compounding silence is massive. I mean, by the time the project manager or the owner finally gets wind of a crisis, it's usually because it's just grown way too large to hide.
Too late.
Exactly. I mean, according to Smart Business Automator's Market Intelligence Report, 65% of project cost overruns were visible to field workers 2 to 3 weeks before management became aware.
Wow. 2 to 3 weeks. That gap is staggering. It's exactly like having a slow-leaking pipe behind the drywall.
That's a great way to look at it.
Right, because as management, you only perceive the problem when the structural integrity fails and the entire ceiling just caves in, ruining the room below.
Yeah.
But the laborers on the floor, they smelt the dampness behind that wall a fortnight ago.
Rip.
They saw the baseboards starting to swell and the paint bubbling. They just didn't feel empowered to tear open the wall.
Because the structural damage was accumulating long before the visible collapse. And since the barrier is trust and not a lack of data, you cannot simply march onto a site, gather everyone around the tailgate, and, demand the truth.
Right. Tell me everything that's broken.
Yeah, that doesn't work. Demanding honesty from a position of authority usually just yields self-preservation and polite nods.
Lots of nodding.
Exactly.
Okay.
You have to bridge that gap by deploying very specific, psychologically safe questions that basically dismantle their defensive posture.
You need a surgical approach to disarm that hesitation. So let's look at the mechanics of the first tool in this framework. What is the initial question a leader should be asking to break the ice?
The first question is carefully phrased. You ask, what is the one thing slowing us down right now that I probably do not know about?
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
The phrasing that I probably do not know about does a lot of heavy lifting there.
It really does.
It feels like a very humble approach. You are preemptively admitting to your own blind spots, which gives the worker permission, to share bad news without it feeling like they are accusing you of incompetence.
Exactly. It immediately lowers their defenses. You are validating the fact that their boots on the ground perspective sees things that the macro level schedule totally misses.
Right.
And when you ask this, you uncover highly specific operational roadblocks. You'll uncover that a specific subcontractor is chronically leaving their debris in the way, forcing your carpenters to spend the first hour of every shift just cleaning up before they can actually work.
Which kills productivity.
Totally. Or you'll discover a design conflict in the blueprints that the foreman is secretly spending hours doing mental gymnastics to work around.
Yeah, they're burning all their cognitive energy managing the workaround instead of managing the actual build.
Yeah.
So asking what is slowing them down unblocks the immediate physical work.
Yes.
But how do you prevent this from just turning into a dynamic where they dump all their problems in your lap and wait for you to fix them?
Well, that requires shifting their perspective from task execution to project ownership, which brings us to the second question. You ask, if you were running this project, what would you do differently?
Wait, hold on. We won't asking what would you do differently, just open the floodgates for a massive complaining session.
How so?
I mean, I can easily picture a scenario where you ask that and suddenly every guy on the crew thinks they know how to run a multi-million-dollar commercial build better than the GC, leading to a total breakdown in authority.
Yeah, so that is a very common fear among traditional managers. But the psychological mechanism at play here actually produces the exact opposite result.
Really?
Yeah, asking this doesn't invite whining, it builds extreme ownership. Complain is a passive act. It's someone pointing at a fire and saying, look, a fire.
Right.
When you ask someone how they would run things, you are basically forcing them to step into the shoes of the fire chief. You elevate them from a passive observer to an active problem solver.
Ah, I see. You are demanding a solution to accompany the observation. They have to transition from just saying, this sequence is broken, to saying, here is how we should resequence the ME key trades to avoid this bottleneck.
Exactly. And the frequency with which the absolute best, most efficient solution comes directly from the person whose hands are touching the materials is astounding.
Because they're in it.
Yes. They understand the micro-terrain of the job site far better than an executive analyzing a spreadsheet in an office 20 miles away.
That makes total sense. So you unblock the immediate work, and then you empower the team to engineer the solutions. And I guess once you clear away that immediate operational brush, you start to notice the deeper systemic issues hiding in plain sight.
Which is the perfect time to deploy the third question. Is there anything we should stop doing that we keep doing because we have always done it?
Oh, the classic because we've always done it trap.
It's everywhere.
Every single organization suffers from process bloat. You implement a temporary rule to solve a specific problem on a job site 5 years ago, and somehow magically it becomes permanent company policy.
Right, and these useless processes are completely invisible to management because they just look like people working. But the experienced crew is painfully aware of the wasted motion.
Yeah, they feel the friction of those inefficiencies every single day.
Maybe it's a redundant sign-out sheet for equipment that nobody ever actually checks, or, I don't know, a daily huddle that could just be a single text message.
Yep.
This question targets those invisible habits. It gives the team the official green light to finally kill off the outdated bureaucratic processes that are basically acting as an anchor on their daily productivity.
We aren't just talking about productivity and time wasting, though. I mean, the most critical systemic issues are the ones that threaten physical safety. How does this framework address the hazards that don't make it onto the official clipboard?
That requires the fourth question, which is arguably the most crucial for risk mitigation. You ask, what is the biggest safety concern you have seen this week that did not get reported?
Emphasizing that did not get reported is the absolute linchpin of that sentence.
It really is.
Because the official safety logs only tell a sanitized version of the story. If a piece of scaffolding wobbles but doesn't fall, nobody is taking the time to fill out triplicate forms about it.
Yeah.
They just tell the next guy to watch his step.
Exactly. The official logs represent a very, very small fraction of the actual risk profile. In fact, if you look at Smart Business Automator's market intelligence report, they found that for every reported safety incident, there are 10 to 30 near misses that go entirely unreported.
Wow, 10 to 30. Visualizing that data really puts the true danger into perspective. It's like an iceberg.
Totally.
The single reported safety incident, the sprained ankle or the drop tool, is just the tiny tip of the ice visible above the waterline.
Yeah.
But those 10 to 30 unreported near misses, That is the massive, jagged chunk of ice lurking right below the surface, just accumulating mass and waiting to tear the hull out of the entire project.
And asking specifically about what went unreported is how you drain the water and expose the whole iceberg before the ship strikes it.
Right.
It surfaces the leading indicators of risk so you can, reinforce the scaffolding or replace the frayed harness before it escalates into a tragic, life-altering injury or a catastrophic liability claim.
So we've addressed the daily workflow roadblocks, we've empowered the crew to fix bad habits, and we're catching the safety risk before they materialize. We are shining a bright light on the environment.
We are. But to complete this framework, a leader has to be willing to turn that interrogation mirror on themselves.
Yeah, and this final step is undeniably the most uncomfortable. The fifth question is, what do you need from me that you are not getting? Man, I could feel the tension just thinking about asking that on a job site. You are willingly standing in front of a subordinate and asking for a direct critique of your own leadership performance.
It requires deep vulnerability, but it exposes the most vital leadership gaps. I mean, you might be operating under the illusion that you are communicating your vision perfectly.
Sure.
But when asked, your superintendent might tell you they desperately need faster approvals on change orders because your indecision is causing the crew to stand around waiting for direction.
Or they might reveal that they need you to run interference with a difficult client who keeps showing up unannounced.
Yeah.
Or they might just beg you to stop aggressively altering the project plan midway through the week.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Having the specific vocabulary of these 5 questions is only half the battle.
Right. The execution matters.
Oh, massively. The execution framework, the actual environment and manner in which you ask them, determines whether you get the truth or a polite fiction. If you stand at the front of a crowded morning safety briefing with a clipboard and shout, "What am I doing wrong?" you will be met with absolute silence.
Of course. Group dynamics dictate that nobody is going to be the lone nail that sticks up, especially not to critique the boss in front of 20 of their peers.
Never. The framework mandates that these questions are asked one-on-one. You need to physically walk the site, find a quiet moment with a foreman or a laborer, and just ask the question casually.
It has to feel like a natural conversation, not a deposition.
Exactly. And once they start talking, the most critical part of the entire framework begins. You have to listen.
Just listen.
Yes, you listen without defending your past decisions. You listen without explaining the macroeconomic reasons why materials are late. And you listen without immediately promising to fix everything by tomorrow. You just absorb the reality of their experience.
You become a sponge for the truth.
Yeah.
And the methodologies suggest rotating through these 5 questions across different team members on every single site visit. Right?
Yes.
By doing that over the course of a month, you piece together a highly accurate, unfiltered mosaic of what is truly happening within your company. But gathering the raw feedback is useless if it just sits in your notebook. What is the mechanism for turning that feedback into trust?
It relies entirely on the 48-hour rule.
Okay, what's that?
The leader must act on at least one piece of feedback within 48 hours of hearing it. If the crew observes that speaking up actually materializes into tangible change, you reinforce the behavior. They will continue to bring you the truth.
Right, because they see it working.
Exactly. But if they take the risk to pour their hearts out and the environment remains exactly the same, they will shut down permanently. You will have proven that their voice doesn't matter.
Wait, let's look at the logistical reality of that for a second. If a foreman tells me our primary concrete supplier is consistently delivering bad batches and throwing off the entire structural timeline, I cannot realistically fix a massive supply chain issue and vet a new vendor in 48 hours. Is the rule setting leaders up to fail?
No, because acting on it is not synonymous with completely resolving the macro crisis.
Okay.
Expecting a total resolution in 2 days isn't realistic in commercial construction. Acting on it means taking a visible, concrete first step to prove you are taking it seriously.
So like sending an email.
Yes. It means drafting an official email to the architect requesting a review, or putting a temporary hold on the next concrete order, and then explicitly circling back to the worker to say, "I heard what you said on Tuesday. Here's the specific action I took this morning to begin untangling this."
Ah, got it. The goal is to show them their feedback has created operational momentum.
Exactly. You are proving that the steering wheel is actually connected to the tires.
Okay. But this brings up a massive operational bottleneck, though.
What's that?
Let's say you are an owner or a project manager overseeing 5 different commercial builds. You are walking the sites, having these incredibly vulnerable one-on-ones, and gathering hundreds of pieces of raw, honest feedback every week.
Right.
You are identifying schedule blocks, safety near misses, and process failures. How does a human being track all these recurring themes and act on them within 48 hours without completely drowning in administrative chaos?
Yeah, you have just identified the scaling paradox of leadership.
Feels impossible.
It is, manually. Once you successfully open the floodgates of communication, the administrative back end of your business absolutely must possess the capacity to process those insights. If your back end relies on scattered spiral notebooks, sticky notes on your dashboard, and, chaotic email threads, you'll drop the ball.
And fail the 48-hour rule.
And you will shatter the trust you just worked so hard to build. This is precisely why modern construction management requires looking objectively at AI platforms as an operational bridge. We can use a platform like Smart Business Automator as a clear case study for how this technology solves the scale problem.
Because having human conversations is the irreplaceable art of leadership. But forcing that same human to spend 6 hours manually typing those conversations into a database is a colossal waste of their talent.
100%.
Let's examine the mechanics of how a system like Smart Business Automator actually processes this data. How does their document and daily log intelligence function in a real-world scenario where the data is just messy and filled with construction jargon?
Well, it relies on advanced natural language processing, or NLP. So when a project manager speaks their chaotic, jargon-heavy field notes into the system, maybe mentioning that the Sparkies are waiting on the mutter to finish, the AI doesn't just blindly transcribe the words.
Right, it knows what that means.
Exactly. It maps the context. It understands that the electricians are blocked by the drywall tapers. It automatically categorizes that note, tags the relevant subcontractors, links it to the specific floor plan, and extracts a clear action item for the project manager's dashboard.
Wow.
It literally turns a rambling stream of consciousness into structured, actionable data.
It takes all the friction out of organizing the truth. And the search and RFI generation is arguably even more impactful. I mean, a major complaint from field crews is how long they have to wait for management to answer a request for information.
It takes forever.
Yeah. If a crew hits a discrepancy between the architectural drawing and the structural reality, they are paralyzed until they get an answer.
And traditionally, a project manager would have to hunt through nested digital folders, cross-reference the original contract, review building codes, and look at past email chains just to draft a response to that RFI. It takes hours.
Such a pain.
But the AI acts as a hyper-intelligent librarian. It instantly scans the entire historical context of the project, every email, blueprint, and permit, and cross-references it with local compliance codes to actually draft a highly accurate RFI response for the manager to review and approve.
So it doesn't replace the manager's judgment. It just removes the 4 hours of foundational busy work required to exercise that judgment.
Precisely.
It is like an operational exoskeleton for a project manager. A human leader naturally only has the strength to carry the cognitive load of maybe 1 or 2 complex projects. But when you strap on this AI exoskeleton, that exact same manager can lift 10 times the weight.
Oh, that's a perfect analogy.
Right, they can oversee 5 projects simultaneously because the machine is carrying the administrative burden.
That exoskeleton analogy perfectly captures the dynamic. The AI takes on the predictive heavy lifting in the risk and project health modules. The algorithms continuously evaluate the schedule to detect bottlenecks before the human eye would catch them.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and if you propose a change order, the system instantly runs a variance trend to show you exactly how that change will ripple through your timelines and budget over the next 6 months. But for any of this to work seamlessly, it has to integrate with the tools you already use, which is where custom API workflows come in.
Let's break down API workflows so it doesn't just sound like, tech buzzwords.
Fair enough.
The ERP, the Enterprise Resource Planning Software, is basically the company's central nervous system where all the accounting and high-level data lives. But the field tools are out in the mud. How does the AI connect them?
Well, an API is essentially a digital translator. Without it, a project manager has to look at the field application, read the data, and manually retype it into the accounting software back at the office.
Which is a massive point of friction and human error.
Exactly. The API workflow allows Smart Business Automator to act as the bridge. When a field worker logs a material delay or a safety concern in the field app, the AI translates that data and automatically updates the central ERP system, adjusts the budget projections, and alerts the necessary executives. The information just flows autonomously.
It creates a perfectly closed loop of trust and efficiency. You spend your energy out in the physical world, walking the dirt, looking your crew in the eye, and using those 5 questions to extract the hidden reality of the job site.
Yep.
And then your AI backend meticulously organizes that reality, highlighting exactly what you need to act on to satisfy the 48-hour rule.
Because when the crushing weight of administrative data entry is lifted by the software, leaders finally possess the time and the mental bandwidth required to actually be leaders. They have the space to build the psychological safety their crews desperately need.
Which brings us to a critical realization about the future of this industry, and really a provocative thought to carry with you onto the job site tomorrow.
Let's hear it.
If AI platforms are rapidly evolving to handle all the operational bottlenecks, schedule forecasting, and tedious paperwork, the construction manager of the future will no longer be valued primarily for their administrative skills.
No, the software will be the administrator.
Exactly. Instead, your entire value as a leader will be derived purely from your psychological skills, your ability to extract the truth, empower your crew, and build unshakable trust.
So the question you have to ask yourself is this. When software permanently takes the clipboard out of your hands, what kind of leader will you be forced to become?
The environment is shifting from managing paper to managing human potential.
It absolutely is. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the true cost of silence and the tools needed to overcome it.
It's been a great discussion. If you found value in this breakdown, please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review the show on your preferred listening platform. We highly encourage you to share this deep dive with your fellow project managers, superintendents, or anyone in your professional circle who would benefit from leveling up their leadership framework. And finally, to explore the operational exoskeleton we broke down today and see how it applies to your specific job sites, be sure to visit smartbusinessautomator.com. We will catch you on the next deep dive.